Good morning. My name is Oreen Chowdhury, council member to the 12th Ward and chair of the Intergovernmental Relations Committee. Today, we thank Congresswoman Omar for her work on behalf of the Congressional District on bringing forward the Neighbors Not Enemies Act to repeal the archaic and dangerous Alien Enemies Act of 1798. We, as a city today, have committed our support to it, signaling one of the many actions and commitments we are making to protect and treat our immigrant communities with dignity and justice. Thank you to the Congresswoman for being a leader at the federal level and taking actions that our community is calling for here at the local level. This press conference is also about sharing to our community that we are committed to supporting, protecting, and having the backs of our immigrant and refugee neighbors. And we know that the threats of deportation and apprehension have struck fear in many, and we want to be clear that in the city of Minneapolis, as a local government, we are committed to ensure that our city is a welcoming and safe place for everyone, especially our immigrant community. And with that, I will introduce Congresswoman Ilhan Omar.
I want to thank Minneapolis City Council member Oreen Chowdhury for sponsoring the resolution to support the Neighbors Not Enemies Act. And I want to thank our mayor for his support as well, and the entire city council. Over the last few days, we have seen Donald Trump rain havoc on immigrant communities across this country. Last week in New Jersey, Trump's administration detained a military veteran and a U.S. citizen as part of a surprise raid, which they did not have a warrant for. Right here in our communities, one of our neighbors went to work in the morning last week and never came home. His wife filed a missing persons report before she found out that he was detained with no record except few parking tickets. We have seen members of our communities, including our children, being unlawfully intimidated because of the actions of this administration. These are our neighbors, our friends, our community members who do not deserve to be rounded up like criminals. We know Minneapolis is likely one of the many cities that the Trump administration is planning on targeting for political retribution. I'm grateful to have so many incredible elected officials, including our city council, who are on the forefront protecting our neighbors. Last week, I introduced the Neighbors Not Enemies Act to repeal the outdated and dangerous Alien Enemies Act of 1798. The last time the Alien Enemies Act was invoked, it was used to detain and deport German, Japanese, and Italian immigrants during World War II, one of the most shameful chapters in American history. So much so that we had to apologize and pay retribution. Now, Stephen Miller and Donald Trump are preparing to use this law for their plan of mass deportation. The context in which Trump and Miller are raising the Alien Enemies Act is in what they say are their plans to target cartels and transnational criminal gangs. But that is not what the Alien Enemies Act does. The Alien Enemies Act targets people based on their nationality, not on their behavior. Invoking the Alien Enemies Act the way Trump and Miller are planning to do is illegal, unconstitutional, and a huge stretch under the law. We need to be clear about what this will mean for human beings in this country. Thousands of families will have their lives upended because of Donald Trump's actions. Thousands of families will be separated from the ones they love and the country they called home for years and decades. It is important to recognize that this will not happen because of anything they have done. It will happen because of where they were born. Our country is far too great to fall prey to Donald Trump's anti-immigrant agenda, and we need to do everything possible to restore basic humanity to our immigration system. If you are an immigrant, make sure you know your legal rights. If you are undocumented, you have rights under our Constitution as well. Make a plan with your family in the case the unthinkable happens. Make sure you have an attorney and a legal plan. I'm again very grateful to our City Council for raising the alarm and supporting this legislation. Together, we can end the xenophobic law once and for all. Thank you. Okay. And with that, I will call on Mayor Jacob Fry.
A deep thank you to Congresswoman Ilhan Omar for this exceedingly important legislation. A thank you to Councilmember Oreen Chowdhury and the entire City Council for their work in bringing it to the general discourse. As the Congresswoman pointed out, this Alien Enemies Act of 1798 is archaic, it's wrong-headed, it allows for people to be detained and deported not based on any criminal activity, but based on where they come from. That runs against every value that we hold in Minneapolis. It is an act that should have long ago been repealed in full, and I'm glad that she's bringing it forward now so that it ultimately is eliminated. Now, the Neighbors Not Enemies Act also pushes forward with the values that we hold in Minneapolis. And I want to first address what I've experienced over the last several days and weeks. I've had conversations with countless people throughout our city that are terrified. They're fearful that they're going to drop their kid off in the morning at daycare or at school and not see them again in the evening. They're terrified that their loved ones, their neighbors, the people who they hold dear, will not see them because they get detained or deported by an administration that is not willing to see them for who they are, human beings. And so I want to speak very directly to people in our city, and I want to speak directly to people who are undocumented. We love you. We care about you. In the city of Minneapolis, we will stand up for you, and we will do anything in our power to help. Because you're not an alien in our city, you're a neighbor. Now, in Minneapolis, we have what is called a separation ordinance. And that separation ordinance states clearly that our city officials, our police officers and beyond, will not be gathering information showing who is and who is not documented. We do not ask the question with regard to immigration status, and because we haven't asked the question, we don't have any data to show documentation status in our city. Our police officers will not be cooperating with federal law enforcement around federal immigration law. We enforce state and local laws here in Minneapolis, and we will do so to the best of our ability. But as for cooperation with ICE, the answer is no. And so, again, I think all of us can understand how it would feel if you're dropping your kid off in the morning not knowing whether you're going to see them that afternoon. I don't think there's anything that's more profound than that, having the ability just to return to your family. And the fact that, as of right now, we're having to educate people about the delegation of parental authority, just considering that that's something that people have to make decisions on is terrifying. And so, again, to those that are undocumented, we stand with you. To our entire city, regardless of where you're from, regardless of your background, we're with you and we love you. And with that, I have the honor of turning it over to Council President Elliott Payne. I have to run to the next event, but I deeply appreciate all of your work.
Thank you, Mayor Fry, and thank you, Congresswoman Omar. My name is Elliott Payne. I use he, him pronouns. I'm the president of City Council, and we are here today to recognize that, yes, we are a nation of laws, but those laws are built on a foundation of rights. And those rights supersede all laws. And we're going to do everything within our power in local government to make sure that those rights are protected, because those rights are the rights of the people. And local government is about centering people. And we're going to do that at every step of the way here. We are seeing a slurry of actions happening at the federal level. Those actions are sowing chaos within our community, and that is by design. And at every step along the way, not just us as elected leaders at the local level, but every single one of you in our community need to recognize that we hold the power to those rights. And we each have a personal responsibility to stand firm in protecting those rights. And I am committed to the firmest stance when it comes to protecting those rights in the city of Minneapolis and for the people of Minneapolis, without consideration of documentation. You are our neighbors, you are our people, and you have power, and we will share that power with you and making sure that we stand up for what we know is right, and that is the protection of all of our rights. Thank you, and with that, I will introduce Vice President Chuck Tai.
Thank you. Good morning. My name is Aisha Chugtai. I represent Ward 10 on the Minneapolis City Council, and I serve as the Vice President of our City Council. I'm really honored to be here today with our mayor and our congresswoman in stating clearly and definitively that that every person in our community belongs, that the U.S. government's 200-plus year history of treating people who are our neighbors, people regardless of their immigration status, documentation status, as though they don't belong here, is unacceptable to us. And here in Minneapolis, we believe that all of our neighbors are worthy of being treated with care, compassion, and dignity, to make their lives and be a part of our neighborhoods and communities. Like 1 in 4 children in Minneapolis, my parents are immigrants, and the impact of this administration is not abstract to me. It is deeply personal, and I think that to be a person with any marginalized identity, but in particular to be an immigrant, a child of immigrants, a refugee, in this country right now is a really, really scary experience. It is a really uncertain experience, and I think what we collectively as your representatives in local government want you to know is we care about you, and we believe you belong, and we have your back, and you are a part of our community. And with that, I will now welcome Councilmember Chowdhury.
Thank you. I'll keep my remarks brief. I think my colleagues covered much, and there will be more to cover. I'll just say I am a first-generation Bengali American. I'm the daughter of working-class immigrants, and I have, in the last week alone, have gotten so many threats of just attacks on my own family, attacks on me, attacks of taking away my citizenship online. And I say that because this body is reflective of the communities that we seek to represent and protect. And we are 10 tones down on the commitment of backing our immigrant and refugee communities. I want our the public to recognize that the mayor and the city council and our city leadership are united on this. We're trying to speak in one voice. We are working really, really quickly to provide resources and information for residents that are impacted by the actions of the Trump administration to be publicly available to you. One thing that I will ask to neighbors who may not be directly impacted but are trying to be good allies is if you hear about unverified instances of ICE or law enforcement conducting some of this work, to not spread misinformation and sow panic. I highly encourage you to reach directly out to the Office of Immigrant and Refugee Affairs, directly to your council member, so we can put it through the correct channels and make sure that verified information is going out. And I also encourage neighbors to sign up for the newsletters of the City of Minneapolis and your council members as we continue to disseminate information about people's rights and resources that are forthcoming. And with that, I will introduce Councilmember Osman.
Hello, I am Councilmember Osman, Ward 6 council member. I'm an immigrant. This country welcomed me and my family 24 years ago, and today feels a little different. My residents, majority of my residents are immigrants. My residents are in fear, either documented or undocumented. This resident escaped a war, escaped a fear and a dictatorship, and today they are in fear and it feels like they are under dictatorship. And that's really hurtful, and you know, United States has been the upfront and the light that shows the world an example of welcoming those that has been persecuted, those has been that went through war and dictatorship. There has been that example. And as I talked to my residents, on Friday I was at the mosque, and there's many questions that I don't have the answer for. People are asking, especially a naturalized citizen, people with green cards, are they going to be revoked or taken away? Because that is the language and the attitude that's coming out from the White House. And it's unfortunate, but I want to thank Congresswoman Ilhan, and I call all the other leaders in the state or around the United States to stand up what's right and to protect people that are vulnerable. You know, every immigrant has a story, and their story is unique. And just want to thank my council members and the city of Minneapolis for really standing up for our residents. And I'll tell my residents that stay strong, because you have been through your home country a lot worse, and we're going to stand together. So thank you.
Hi everyone, my name is Jason Chavez. I am the city council member in Ward 9, the proud son of Mexican immigrants, and I'm very proud to be here with my colleagues in support of Congresswoman Omar's efforts to address, you know, the horrendous actions we are seeing from the White House and from Congress themselves. You know, over the past few days, what we've seen in Minneapolis has been, you know, very unfortunate. There has been a lot of spread of misinformation, of potential ICE raids. So as my colleague, Councilmember Chowdhury said, we are asking the public to please verify any information that you are sharing, because the last thing we want to do is instill fear in our neighbors who are very scared right now. But what I'm also going to ask is that if you are not deportable, if you have the privilege of having some citizenship status or some form of authorization to be in the United States, is that we need you to stand up right now for our neighbors. There are many people right now that are living in fear. They are scared, and they need our local government, they need our county, our state and federal government to stand up for them. You know, and I want to be clear, while this administration, the Trump administration, has been 10 times worse, this isn't new. Our community has been hiding in the shadows with every single presidential administration. And now we are seeing the public being outraged again, which is good. We should be outraged every single year that this happens, because this is not new. But we are seeing it 10 times worse, and we need our neighbors to stand up with us. And I think you have here our colleagues at the city council. We have the mayor here, our congresswoman. We will do everything in our power, whether it's our policies or funding resources to address this issue at hand, we are not going to compromise, and we're going to do our very best under what is under our authority to protect our community because they matter and they are our neighbors. So I do want to thank Councilmember Chowdhury for bringing and working with the council on bringing this forward, and our Congresswoman. This is one thing that we are going to do out of the many actions that we need to take because we know that under unprecedented times that we are living in, our city needs to take unprecedented action to protect our neighbors. Thank you.
Our last speaker will be Director of the Office of Immigrant and Refugee Affairs, Director Michelle Rivero.
Thank you so much, Councilmember Chowdhury. Thank you, council members, City Council, Mayor Fry, and Representative Omar. My name is Michelle Rivero, and I'm the Director of the Office of Immigrant and Refugee Affairs for the City of Minneapolis. Thank you very much for being here today. Thank you to all the people standing beside me and all who are standing up for our neighbors, residents of the City of Minneapolis. The Office of Immigrant and Refugee Affairs, or OIRA, is tasked with connecting our neighbors and residents with services and opportunities so that everyone, including those born outside of the United States, finds a sense of belonging and can achieve their highest potential. We engage with Minneapolis immigrant communities and provide information and resources, including on legal assistance, food, shelter, transportation, healthcare, victim services, and more. In moments like these, we want and need people to know their rights and their responsibilities. And our work centers on connecting people and connecting people to that information. We also partner with nonprofit immigration legal service organizations so that residents know what is changing and where to go for help. The best place for information is our website, OIRA Minneapolis, to find Know Your Rights video, information from community partners, fact sheets, multilingual resources, and more. As a city, we recognize that when people are equipped with information about their rights, that is a way to neutralize fear and to empower communities. It takes all of us to foster a truly welcoming community. We need allies now more than ever. We need to be neighbors to each other right now. The Office of Immigrant and Refugee Affairs is committed to ensuring that people who are impacted by federal immigration developments and people who are allies of those who are impacted are connected to the resources and the information they need to face the future. And with that, I'll turn the microphone back over. Thank you.
Thank you. We can take a couple of questions now if there are any. I'll ask Director Rivero to take that question.
Thank you. I appreciate the question. I think we as a city are working to identify when enforcement operations take place and the scope of those enforcement operations. While we have not received credible reports of a raid per se, federal immigration enforcement officers do conduct enforcement operations every day. And so we are tracking and monitoring events that may be taking place or events that have been reported to us.
Thank you. Yes.
No estamos aquí platicando, aquí estamos como líderes, estamos con nuestra miembro del Congreso, Ilhan Omar, estamos con el alcalde Jacob Fry y estamos aquí como los miembros del Consejo del Consejo Municipal de la Ciudad de Minneapolis y estamos platicando que aquí la Ciudad de Minneapolis va a hacer todo lo que puede hacer para proteger nuestra comunidad inmigrante, específicamente la comunidad inmigrante undocumentada, que sabemos que muchos de nuestra comunidad tienen miedo ahorita, pero también queremos anunciar que la policía de la ciudad de Minneapolis no va a trabajar con inmigración, no va a hacer el trabajo de inmigración. Si inmigración va a hacer trabajo en la ciudad de Minneapolis, ellos van a hacer su trabajo solitos, sin ayuda de la policía de Minneapolis. Entonces, eso es algo que es bien importante para nosotros como líderes de Minneapolis, porque ya sabemos que nuestra comunidad inmigrante es bien importante. Pero también nosotros sabemos que tenemos que hacer más de eso. Tenemos que trabajar en pólizas, usar nuestros fondos para ayudar a nuestra comunidad en estos momentos que tenemos mucho miedo. También aquí estamos apoyando legislación de nuestra miembro del Congreso, Ilhan Omar, para ayudarle a ella a pasar legislación para proteger nuestra comunidad inmigrante en los Estados Unidos. Entonces, aquí nomás estamos platicando de los recursos que tenemos, pólizas que queremos pasar, pero también sabemos que el gobierno municipal va a ser un lugar bien importante para pasar las protecciones para nuestra comunidad. Entonces, eso es algo de lo que está pasando. Sí. Entonces, lo que practicamos hoy, como líderes de Minneapolis, queremos pasar pólizas, fondos, decir que inmigración, la policía no va a trabajar con inmigración en Minneapolis. La legislación de los Estados Unidos que está trabajando Ilhan Omar, nuestra miembro del Congreso, eso es una póliza que ella quiere pasar para todos los Estados Unidos. Entonces, de la conferencia de prensa hoy es una legislación para todos los Estados Unidos, pero eso tendría que pasar en el Senado y la Casa de Representantes, y el presidente lo tendría que firmar. Pero también sabemos que nosotros aquí en la ciudad tenemos que proteger nuestra comunidad, y aquí estamos como colegas y como staff con un comité de decir que vamos a tratar todo lo que podemos hacer aquí en la ciudad de Minneapolis para protegerlos a ustedes. Nosotros como líderes de Minneapolis, pero la legislación de Ilhan Omar es para todos los Estados Unidos, pero tiene que pasar primero. Sí.
Yes, there's some sense of fear, obviously. Families that can't come home, they can't go to school, they can't go to work. Some businesses are affected by it. Does this ordinance guarantee some sense of normalcy for the immigrant community in the city to go about their days, return to school, return to work, shop at businesses they want to shop at?
Director Rivera.
So thank you for the question. I can share that the city's separation ordinance governs city employee conduct in immigration matters. And it makes very clear that city employees do not inquire about immigration status, and that city employees, including Minneapolis Police Department and other public safety officers, do not support, do not assist in immigration enforcement operations. The ordinance is available on the Office of Immigrant and Refugee Affairs webpage. It is important to make clear also that federal enforcement initiatives take place and will continue to take place. So understanding what our role is as a local municipality and what we can do and what is the purview of the federal government. And this is also part of what the separation ordinance is intended to do. It is intended to clarify what our role is as city employees in order to support community and connect community to resources so that people feel safe encountering local municipal officers, and recognizing that federal immigration enforcement is not in our purview. I hope that that is helpful. Thank you.
Thank you, everybody.